The big bad wolf was ferocious and cruel, a little fox, cunning and sinister. They stood at two extremes of the food chain. At their first meeting, they were at daggers drawn. In this modern beastman world, there were herbivores and carnivores. They not only retained human thoughts and appearances, but also the primal ambition of beastmen. Inside a private room on the second floor, a fox beastman was trying to bully a weak raccoon. So, the wolf's sister stepped in with a dashing air. In just a few moves, she knocked the troublemaker to the ground. But her subordinate, Sibai, told her it was best not to alert the police. Uwinsi irritably tugged at his tie because it had accidentally picked up the scent of that sly fox. He hated the smell. Just then, her subordinate suddenly noticed his expression. He saw the beastman ears on his head perk up. It turned out that when a beastman's emotions ran high, the beast blood in their body would boil, taking over their dominant thinking. This state was also known as berserking. Uwinsi quickly pulled down his hat and told his subordinate to report the situation to the boss first. Because in this club that served VIPs, security personnel were not allowed to berserk. He then went to the restroom at the end of the hallway. Few people usually came here, so Uwinsi confidently took off his hat. Although this pair of gray wolf ears wasn't embarrassing, because of a previous incident, he was reluctant to show them in public. He then pressed his forehead against the cold mirror, hoping to alleviate the restlessness within him. Xiao Jun, it's all my fault. I lost control again. Just then, Uwinsi suddenly heard footsteps coming from the hallway. He hurriedly pressed his hat back on, tucking away his wolf ears. Sister, do you need a cotton swab or some iodine? Uwinsi turned around fiercely. Who are you calling, sister? However, he froze in the next second. He saw that the person who had arrived was a beautiful young woman with fair skin, wearing a long black dress. She wore no extra jewelry, looking gentle and pure. Only, her scent seemed to be that of a rabbit. And Uwinsi, as the apex predator, naturally saw this purebred little rabbit as prey. So he spoke in an icy tone, "Hey, don't look at me like that. I don't know you." A flicker of sadness crossed the girl's eyes at these words. That's right. After all these years, almost 2,000 days and nights, it's normal for sister to forget me. Uwinsi was stunned by these words. What are you talking about? The girl slowly approached him. Sister, don't you remember Xiao Jun? Uwinsi was forced back against the cold sink, with nowhere left to retreat. The girl's hand rested on his face. As if possessed, he didn't dodge. Unbeknownst to him, he had missed his chance to escape. Actually, I was following behind sister just now, wanting to help you treat your wound. But now I've changed my mind. With that, the girl pulled a handkerchief from her pocket, and oh, it's the smell of chloroform. Sensing danger, Uwinsi pushed the girl away. However, just as he turned to run, he was tightly embraced from behind. With his strength, he could have broken free, but the chest pressed against his back was too warm, and the hot breath against his ear was too much. He heard the girl repeatedly calling, "Sister, sister, sister." And that voice overlapped with the voice of the little fox calling him sister from deep within his memory. The cold handkerchief was pressed against his face. This time, however, he gave up struggling. "Sister, I won't let you abandon me again." A hot tear slid down his neck, followed by a wet kiss. Uwinsi gradually lost consciousness in the girl's warm embrace. And as his consciousness faded, the gears of time slowly began to turn. It turned out that when he was 8 years old, after his mother passed away, his father found a woman to live with, and he inexplicably gained a younger sibling. That gentle yet cold rabbit beast man, because of his sister's meticulous care, became a ray of light in her life, allowing her to feel the warmth of home for the first time. Back then, she naively thought she could have this light forever. But his sister only stayed in that home for 4 years before leaving. During that time, he heard countless rumors about his sister. It wasn't until his father's death that he saw his sister again. But that meeting was very unpleasant, because his sister told him that a wolf and a rabbit simply couldn't live together. She even said she felt scared being with him. After saying that, she cruelly left the house. From then on, Uwinsi became an orphan, neglected by everyone. Although he initially held on to fantasies about his sister, he gradually let go as time passed. Until later, his sister's mother came to find him, saying that his sister had committed suicide and left a will at the hospital, asking him to take care of her 12-year-old child. The girl's name is Minjun. Uwinsi found it utterly ridiculous. Why should he have to take care of this child? He thought back to when his sister had said she was afraid of him, that she didn't want anything to do with him, and cruelly left. Did she ever consider that he was only 12 years old then? Back then, young and alone, he had fought his way to where he was. But now someone was telling him that some people are born with love and protection without having to suffer the hardships he had. And he was like an unwanted puppy. Thinking of this, UNC became increasingly agitated, yelling at the woman to get out. He had no obligation to take care of this wild child. However, the old apartment wasn't soundproof. The little girl outside the door heard their argument. She kicked open the door with a bang. "Grandma, let's go. He's a bad man. I don't want him." UNC glared at her fiercely. "Bad man? You don't want me? Say that again. I said you're a jerk. You carnivorous beasts. You all have no morals." This clearly enraged the hot-tempered wolf. He slammed his fist hard against the wall. Then he turned around coldly. "Get out of here. Don't let me see you again." The woman hurriedly comforted the little girl, asking if she was scared. But Minjun didn't speak. She was just shocked by how terrifying the wolf's strength was. Meanwhile, unable to accept the reality of the situation, UNC went to a bar to get drunk and told his friend about what had happened. 3 years ago, when UNC had just entered society, he was struggling. It was this rabbit who took him home and cared for him like a sister. From then on, he only showed his vulnerability to her. For days later, UNC returned home. To his surprise, the woman hadn't left yet. She had even prepared a table full of food for him. Seeing this, he wasn't going to be polite. After all, a free lunch was a free lunch. That weren't you saying I was a bad man? That you didn't want me? Then why are you here? The woman lowered her head humbly and explained, "Minjun, she's actually very well behaved. Ever since her mother passed away, she's treated me as her only family. Yesterday, she heard the commotion inside and cut the crap. You're both pitying this wild child who just lost her mother. Did anyone pity me back then?" Seeing that he was unmoved, the woman pulled out a medical report, showing that she had a terminal illness and didn't have much time left. "Besides you, I really can't find anyone to entrust her to." The woman became increasingly emotional that "I know Meow Meow and I wronged you, but the child is innocent. Please help me." At this point, Yu Wincy's expression began to soften. The woman quickly took out a card. She explained that there was 200,000 in the card, left by the child's mother. As long as Yu Wincy agreed to raise the child until adulthood, the money would be his. 200,000 was indeed a temptation for the wolf. A new motorcycle, endless fine wine, all seemed to beckon him. Hey, it's not impossible. I can consider it. But let's be clear, I'm raising her because I'm kind, not because of the 200,000. However, just as he reached out to take the card, the woman suddenly withdrew it. "Xiao Shi, Annie doesn't want to force you. You should get to know Minjun first. You both have to agree before you can live together. Don't worry, Minjun is a good child. As long as you treat her well, she'll definitely like you soon." UNC couldn't help but curse. Not only had he lost the initiative, but he also had to coax that brat himself. Ultimately, the wolf couldn't resist the lure of the money. Before school was out, he arrived early outside the school to wait. And to make a good impression on his future adoptee, he even dressed up in a particularly flashy way. Watching the students being picked up by their parents one after another, he didn't see the little girl. This annoyed UNC. He assumed the little brat was skipping class and had been kept behind by the teacher. Meanwhile, in the classroom, the teacher was explaining the differences between humans and beasts. However, apart from Minjun listening attentively, the other students were whispering and giggling. So the teacher called on Minjun and asked her what she had learned in class today. Minjun said she didn't agree with the jungle law of survival of the fittest. As a human, she pursued equality, a fair and just society, not one where everything was solved with brute force. The teacher agreed with her and asked the class to applaud. However, the other students didn't care and weren't listening at all. They fundamentally looked down on herbivore subjects, and Minjun, as a rabbit beast man, was undoubtedly at the bottom of the food chain. If the law of the jungle truly prevailed, he would be the one eaten. Therefore, he instinctively rejected all carnivorous species. Yet, he was targeted by a group of leopard beastmen. After school, in the gym, they pinned him down, saying they wanted to see what his ears and tail looked like. Outnumbered and overpowered, Minjun could only struggle. He bit down hard on one of the boy's paws. This only enraged the carnivorous beastmen. Grabbing Minjun's hair, they prepared to teach him a lesson. "How dare you bite me, you little punk? I'll teach you the rules of survival today." Minjun closed his eyes in despair. Was he about to be eaten? Suddenly, someone kicked the door open. "Why don't you let me hear these rules of survival?" At that moment, Yu Wincy was a beacon of light in Minjun's eyes. One of the young leopards, Bu Fu Cheat, swung his fist at Yuwensi, but he dodged it easily. Yuwensi delivered a swift kick to the groin, making the boy howl in pain. Then, he revealed his wolf ears, a symbol of his status. Get out of here if you know what's good for you. He watched as the bullies fled in terror. Yuwensi then noticed Minjun huddled on the floor. He reached out to comfort the child, but Minjun flinched away. Yuwensi realized that Minjun was a rabbit beast man, just like his younger sister. He must be just as afraid of him, a gray wolf. Seeing Minjun ignoring him, Yuwensi tried reasoning with him. Listen, you're gonna have to put up with me, even if you're scared. Your mom is gone, and your grandma doesn't want you. I'm your new guardian, and you'll be sorry if you make me angry. Hearing this, Minjun finally looked up, his eyes meeting Yuwensi's wolf ears. Without thinking, he reached out and grabbed the ears, tugging and playing with them. Ears are a wolf's most sensitive area and usually off-limits. Yuwensi froze. What are you doing? He asked. Minjun smiled innocently. Your ears are fun. Yuwensi then proceeded to clean Minjun's wounds with antiseptic. He grumbled as he worked, such a fragile little bunny. You just transferred today. How did you already get targeted by those guys? Minjun's face hardened. They were bullying someone else. They called him an orphan. I just spoke up for him, and that's what made the leopard beastmen angry. Yuwensi gently helped Minjun up from the bench. Don't worry, I'll deal with those bullies later. Minjun looked down silent. He believed in equality and harmony, not violence. Yuwensi clenched his fist that you're so naive. In this world, strength is everything. You'll learn that soon enough. They headed for Yuwensi's motorcycle. He swung his long leg over the seat. Come on, get on, my lady. He hadn't considered Minjun's height. He stared as Minjun struggled to reach the footrest. It took Yuwensi a moment to realize the problem. He laughed shorty. He effortlessly lifted Minjun onto the back seat. Minjun blushed that you're the shorty. I'll be taller than you someday. Yuwensi handed him a helmet. Big talk. We'll see in 10 years. He started the engine. Hold on tight. I'm taking off. He added, before Minjun could reply, let me touch your ears later too. He revved the engine, and the force pressed Minjun against him. You're a jerk. You're not touching my ears. With a roar, the motorcycle sped through the narrow streets. Soon, they arrived at the gray wolf territory. The unfamiliar face drew attention. Hey bro, where'd you pick up such a cute little girl? I didn't pick her up. She was forced on me. I'm looking after her for a while. She's a tasty little rabbit, though. The others crowded around. Ah, a little bunny rabbit. Minjun was indignant. I'm not a bunny rabbit. I am Minyun. He turned away and sat at the other end of the table, fuming. Fine, you're Minjun. Your grandma told me. Once we get settled, she'll send over the 200,000 in guardianship money. I'll deal with you later. Minjun silently lowered his head. Asterisk, so it's because of the money. He changed his mind and came looking for me because of the money. Asterisk, but faced with the delicious food, Minjun instantly forgot his worries. He started wolfing down the lamb skewers, stuffing his little cheeks until they bulged, as if he hadn't eaten meat in ages. Yuwensi said, a bit exasperated, slow down. No one's going to steal it from you. He then seemed to realize something. That aren't you rabbit beastmen herbivores? The little guy mumbled with his mouth full. Rabbits have to evolve when they become human. Yuwensi didn't seem to find anything wrong with that. Well, beastmen have to adapt to human life, after all. Just then, one of his underlings rushed in, sis. There are a few leopard beastmen causing trouble outside. Hearing this, Yuwensi's eyes hardened. He knew exactly who it was. He immediately grabbed a weapon, along with his underlings, and went out to confront them. Sure enough, as soon as he stepped outside, he saw the familiar faces. One of the leopard beastmen yelled, Boss, it's him. Yuwensi scoffed. You losers dare to call for backup and cause trouble on my turf? You should all know the price of messing with my people. The leopard beastmen looked at each other nervously. You were the one who started it. You bullied our leopard cub at school, and you're a gray wolf beastman. You naturally have a bloodline suppression over us. It's not fair. Yuwensi sneered. Your people ganged up on a 12-year-old rabbit, and you dare talk about fairness? Fine. If you want fairness, I'll give you fairness. A fight was about to break out. His underlings cheered excitedly for their boss. Yuwensi threw one of them over his shoulder, slamming the arrogant leopard beast man to the ground. These guys ganged up on a 12-year-old rabbit and then had the nerve to play the victim, claiming he was trying to use his racial advantage to suppress them. Yuwensi never thought of himself as superior just because he was a gray wolf. Besides, he had never used his bloodline advantage to oppress other weaker beastmen. But the thought of the little guy cornered and bullied filled Yuwensi with uncontainable rage. He rained blows on the man's face, making the leopard beast man yelp in pain. Is this the fairness you wanted? Did you ever think about the consequences of messing with my people? Just then, Minjun rushed anxiously into the crowd. He saw Yuwensi raining down blows, almost in a frenzy. He instantly covered his mouth in fear. He was right. Carnivores are so violent. The leopard beast man was clearly defenseless, but Yuwensi showed no signs of stopping. Minjun was terrified that someone would get killed. He shouted towards the center of the crowd, Yuwensi. However, Yuwensi remained unmoved, continuing to punch the man. So the little boy cried out, "Big sister, please stop hitting him." Hearing this, Yuwensi froze. Before he could react, he felt someone hug him from behind. Yuwensi, finally snapped back to his senses by the sobbing voice, stiffened. He slowly turned to look at Minjun. He saw the boy's delicate face covered in tears, yet still worried that he would accidentally kill someone. For the first time, Yuwensi felt at a loss. He reluctantly released the leopard beast man and gently pulled the boy into a hug. "Don't cry, Minjun. I didn't mean to. Don't come near here again, okay?" Later that night, in the rented apartment, Minjun, acting like a little adult, carefully tended to the gray wolf's wounds. He dabbed iodine onto the exposed cuts with a cotton swab. Even though his movements were gentle, it still stung, making Yuwensi yelp. "Ouch. Be gentler." The little guy replied with a serious expression. "It hurts because it's working." Yuwensi wondered where he'd learned such nonsense. Minjun honestly replied, "My mom told me." He then asked, "If you're so scared, why did you fight?" Yuwensi gritted his teeth. "It's because you provoked those punks. You could have just left me alone. It's because you don't like me, isn't it?" Yuwensi hadn't expected this 12-year-old to see right through him. He tried to sound tough. "Didn't your mom tell you not to stick your nose in other people's business?" Minjun, perched on his leg, replied, "My mom only told me that good kids don't fight." A faint milky scent always clung to the little boy. He wouldn't know that when Yuwensi, following this familiar scent, found the locked equipment room and heard the weak cries and the sound of slapping coming from inside, his heart was filled with panic and worry. That was the first time he unleashed his gray wolf traits, wanting to intimidate those bullies. He was not only afraid of disappointing Minjun's mother, but also felt that a fragile herbivore beast man like Minjun deserved to be cherished and protected. At that moment, small hands touched his face, and a soft, childish voice asked, "Does it hurt?" Yuwensi grabbed the girl's hand. "Does it hurt or not? Just like your mother, you're too soft-hearted. You'll definitely suffer for it when you grow up." He then told Minjun to tidy himself up while he went to take a shower, but the little guy grabbed his hand tightly, telling him he couldn't get the wound wet. Yuwensi's expression was full of impatience. "Aren't you being a little too nosy?" But the little guy wouldn't let go of his hand and insisted on making 3 rules with him. First, be careful not to get the wound wet when you shower. Second, don't fight randomly. Third, don't get mad at me for no reason. Otherwise, I'll keep pestering you, and you won't be able to do anything else. And you can forget about the 200,000 mom left behind. Yuwensi hadn't expected the little guy to be so difficult. He had no choice but to agree. Then the two of them linked pinkies, agreeing that whoever broke the rules was a puppy. Minjun finally broke into a big smile. "Sister, then we'll be together from now on." Although having another person in the house made Yuwensi uncomfortable, it unexpectedly gave him a strange sense of peace, much like when his sister had arrived long ago, bringing a spark of life to his lonely existence. Only, she was a bit clumsy. Even tying a ponytail resulted in one side being higher than the other. That day, Yuwensi had a few drinks and fell asleep sprawled on the sofa, mumbling something about a little bunny. Minjun looked at the person on the sofa with a bit of disdain. He's always like this when he's drunk. He then brought a blanket and draped it over him. Just then, the sleeping man grabbed his hand. Minjun just lay there to paw on the big bad wolf. Who was he dreaming of, he wondered. When he woke up the next day, the warmth had disappeared. There was only a note on the pillow. "I went to school. It's in the kitchen." Such a simple sentence unexpectedly made Yuwensi a little depressed. Why does it feel like the guardian roles have been reversed? Now, I'm the one being taken care of. But then he got dressed and answered a call from one of his underlings. He rushed to the arcade. He learned from his underlings that because of their gambling, they had lost the pool hall to the Fox Beastmen. The territory in the slums had always been dominated by their Grey Wolf clan, but the Fox clan was always scheming behind their backs. This made Yuwensi instinctively dislike all fox beast men. He slammed his hand on the table angrily. You two idiots! How dare you gamble with those mangy foxes? Now, according to the rules of the bet, even if their boss showed up, they couldn't forcibly take the place back. His underlings quickly tried to comfort him. Dashiji, don't be angry. A new nightclub just opened in our territory. Let's go check it out. Yeah. There's a super cute bunny girl there. But as he turned to leave, he bumped into a fox beast man. The person looked at him with a provocative smirk. Yuwensi clenched his fists, his face full of displeasure. Speak of the devil. But I don't want to fight today. The woman smiled and waved her hand dismissively. Who wants to fight with you? You crude she-wolf? You have no idea how to treat a lady. No wonder so many people hate you. Yuwensi was about to explode. Shut up, you disgusting fox. Who gave you the nerve to say that? But the woman only laughed harder, covering her mouth. Oh, you have the nerve to call us disgusting? Don't you have a scent of a fox on you too? On the surface, you're all about fighting us, but secretly you need our people to comfort you. How cute. As soon as she finished speaking, Yuwensi clenched his fists, wanted to hit the hypocritical fox. You stinking fox, say that again. But his underlings grabbed his arm. Shiji, calm down. Fighting is not allowed here. There are cameras. Hearing this, Yuwensi glared at the woman's back. She said, I smell like a fox. Don't let me see her again. He then raised his arm and sniffed it, asking his underlings if they smelled anything like a fox. His underlings curiously leaned in and sniffed. There is a strong scent, but it smells better than a fox beast man. It shouldn't be a fox, right? Yuwensi didn't think much of it. Suddenly, he remembered he had forgotten something. He asked his underlings, what time is it? 6:30? Should we go eat? Shiji. Before they could finish, Yuwensi rushed out of the arcade. In no time. I have to pick up the kid from school. The two underlings were left dumbfounded. Didn't he say he was only temporarily taking care of that little bunny? Why does it seem like our boss is so worried? Yuwensi hurried to the school to pick up the little guy, but he missed him. Cursing, he rode his motorcycle through the rain. He rode for quite a distance before finally catching up to Minjun. Sure enough, the kid didn't even have an umbrella and was foolishly trying to walk home in the rain. Back home, Yuwensi dried Minjun's hair roughly. Why didn't you wait for me to pick you up? What if you got kidnapped by bad guys on your way home? Minjun, with tears welling up in his eyes, quietly grumbled about how he didn't like waiting. And besides, who would want to wait for someone who would never come? Hearing this, Yuwensi gently tapped his forehead with a finger. What are you saying? I won't make you wait forever. I promise I won't be late next time. Go take a bath now, or you'll catch a cold. The next second, Minjun let out a huge sneeze. By the time he finished his bath, his face was flushed. He collapsed onto the bed and fell asleep. By the time the doctor arrived, the little guy's fever had spiked to 40 degrees Celsius. The doctor adjusted his glasses, looking puzzled. Are you sure he's a herbivorous wood beast man? This affects the type and dosage of medication. Yuwensi vehemently replied, of course. Would I lie to you? Besides, his mother was an earth beast man. How could she give birth to a carnivorous wood beast man? The doctor still wanted to say something, but Yuwensi, with a worried expression, urged him to prepare the medicine. He then tenderly embraced Minjun. Does it hurt a lot? At this point, Minjun placed his hand on Yuwensi's head ears. I want to touch your ears. Yuwensi sighed helplessly. Do you even understand the meaning of adult beast ears? Generally speaking, beast men can control their features after the age of 12. And actively exposing sensitive beast ears signifies a desire for affection. However, looking at the little guy's eager expression, Yuwensi ultimately couldn't resist. With a swish, he revealed his ears. Minjun, having successfully touched the ears, beamed with happiness. So fleuve, so kinked. Covering his blushing face, Yuwensi was mortified. Damn it, I'll get you back later. Just wait until you turn into a rabbit, Little did he know, his dream of cuddling a bunny was about to be shattered. 3:30 a.m. The doctor prescribed a meter-long list of medications. The price was exorbitant, but for Minjun's sake, he endured it. He had to admit, raising a child was really expensive. A moment later, he brought a glass of water, intending to give Minjun his medicine. But he found the room empty. Turning his head, he noticed a tail sticking out from the gap in the wardrobe door. Strange. Do little bunnies like to nest in wardrobes when they're sick? When he opened the wardrobe door, he discovered Minjun had revealed his true form. He abruptly grabbed the tail. What's this? You're not a rabbit. You've turned into a fox, the thing I hate most. Minjun, startled, burst into tears. Sister, don't do this. I'm scared. But Yuwensi lifted him up by the scruff of his neck. Fuck, don't play dumb with me. You and Chi Mei conspired to trick me. You had so many chances to tell the truth, but you kept it from me for so long. Get dressed. I'm taking you away right now. Minjun whimpered, no, sister, don't send me back to Grandma's. However, the enraged Yuwensi wouldn't listen. He flung Minjun's hand away. Fine. Since you won't leave, wait until morning and have your grandmother pick you up herself. I'm not taking care of you anymore. With that, he stormed out of the room. Minjun felt utterly heartbroken. Was being a rabbit that important to him? Did he have to be just like his mother for Yuwensi to accept him? A while later, Yuwensi arrived at the boxing gym, furiously venting his anger. Damn fox. Damn fox. Saying he's afraid of wolves, hating carnivorous wood beastmen, and yet ending up having a child with a carnivorous wood fox. He continued to pummel the punching bag relentlessly. After 70 or 80 punches, Yuwensi finally calmed down. He finally understood. The barrier of bloodline was just an excuse. Me Meowing didn't dislike wolves. She just disliked him. But he still couldn't let it go. He hated cunning foxes the most. Why did Me Meowing choose a fox? And why did she give birth to Minjun, this little fox? Just then, one of his underlings offered him a bottle of water. Shijia, why are you here training so late at night? Is that adopted kid of yours all right at home? Yuwensi snatched the thermos and snapped, get lost. Don't bother me. I'm leaving. But he was actually a little worried about Minjun, who was still sick. He needed to go back and send him a Chi Mei. Returning home, he saw Minjun huddled outside the door. Yuwensi showed no mercy, shaking the little guy's shoulder. Wake up and pack your things. Get out. But the little guy clung tightly to his waist. Sister, please don't kick me out, okay? I'll be good. Yuwensi remained unmoved. I have no obligation to take care of you now. Minjun immediately started to whimper that I know you don't want to hurt me, but you're a wolf, and I'm a fox. We're natural enemies. What if I want to bite you to death when I grow up? Minjun shook his head vehemently, and oh no, I promise I'll be very obedient, very good. Sister, please, can you like me a little more? Don't send me away. These words reminded Yuwensi of his younger self. Back then, he had also clung to Me Meowing, begging her to like him a little more. Thinking of this, his heart softened. He patted Minjun's head. Sigh, you've said all this. How can I refuse you? Sweet little theater. A little wolf goes to catch a rabbit, overjoyed at the thought of cuddling it. But the rabbit turns into a fox and pounces on him instead. At this moment, Yuwensi was rummaging through the closet, intending to find some clothes for Minjun to change into. But Minjun hesitated, walking forward and tugging at the corner of his clothes. Yuwensi, a little impatient, turned around and snapped, "What now?" Who knew that the next second, Minjun would grab his hand and place it on his ear, touch it. A fox's ears are actually very soft. They're not any worse than a rabbit's. Yuwensi felt the furry touch and instantly blushed crimson, recoiling. This is completely different. And do you know what it means to let someone touch your ears? The little guy innocently replied, of course I know. Mom said you can only let people you like touch your ears. So I like you. This sentence, like melting glaciers, instantly extinguished Yuwensi's anxiety, leaving only a warm current flowing in his heart. After a moment, he coughed. He tossed some clothes to Minjun. Since you understand the meaning of change out of your dirty clothes first so I can wash them. Minjun obediently agreed. Meanwhile, Yuwensi was frantically trying to rationalize things in his mind. If the little guy could always be this cute and obedient, even if he was a fox, he could reluctantly raise him until adulthood. But thinking about his future life, Yuwensi sighed heavily. If he went to university, the household expenses probably wouldn't be enough. While he was worrying about what to do, he saw a flyer lying in the laundry basin. It was an advertisement for the underground fighting ring next door. He remembered hearing his younger gang members talk about it. The contestants who went on stage, they were desperate, fighting for money like their lives depended on it. But the pay was really good. A moment later, Yuwensi went to the little guy's bedroom, thinking that after being sick and crying, he must be exhausted. Thinking about it, he reached out and gently stroked the bags under the little guy's eyes. He couldn't really blame himself for mistaking Minjun for a little white rabbit. The little guy had such an innocent face, and even his scent was unique. And most importantly, he really looked a lot like Me Meowing. However, after he left the room, Minjun opened his eyes. He thought to himself, me Miaoying and Yu Wensi are such a strange pair of sisters. He still didn't quite understand. Even though the relationship between the two wasn't very good, his mother insisted that his grandmother give him to Yu Wensi. And Yu Wensi was angry at first, but later, he didn't know why, agreed to raise him. He knew that as a herbivore beast man, he desperately needed an elder of the same kind to act as a guide. Thinking of this, Minjun blushed secretly. But luckily, Yu Wensi agreed, because honestly, he quite liked him. The next day at the underground fighting ring, Yu Wensi changed into a smart casual outfit, absent-mindedly wrapping white tape around his hands. He wondered if his idiot wolf pack could take good care of Minjun. At this time, the person in charge of the ring looked at him curiously. You're a powerful gray wolf beast man, famous at such a young age, second only to the wolf clan leader. You should know what kind of place this is, right? Why did you sign up? Yu Wensi stretched, saying, just playing around. Besides, I heard you guys pay well, and I happen to need money. The person in charge then led him to the ring. Tonight is your match. The boss is looking forward to your performance. Win or lose, as long as you step into the ring, you'll get paid. And your first challenger is the Black Wolf Beast Man with 18-pack abs. The harsh lights shone on him, and a wave of blood rushed into his nostrils. Yu Wensi clenched his fists tightly, feeling the bloodlust within him begin to stir. Today, he had to win this match, because now he was no longer alone. For Minjun to have a comfortable life in the future, he had to earn more money. To provide better living conditions for Minjun, Yu Wensi went to the underground fighting ring to earn extra cash. His gang members never expected that their usually oblivious leader was actually raising such a cute and well-behaved fox. Minjun stared at the watermelon in front of him, wondering where Yu Wensi had gone. It had only been half a day, but he already missed him, even though the man always had a grumpy face. Suddenly, there was a bang, and several burly men kicked open the door, yelling, "Is Yu Wensi here?" They swaggered into the house, and, seeing only a small girl inside, rudely asked, "Hey, little girl, do you know where Yu Wensi is?" Minjun looked at the men warily. "Who are you? What do you want with Yu Wensi?" The man smirked and introduced himself as Jiu Wei, the leader of the Fox Beastmen in this area. He said that Yu Wensi had provoked his people. The man suddenly grabbed Minjun's hand and sniffed him. "Could you be the little sister Yu Wensi treasures and keeps by his side every day?" Minjun retaliated, slapping the man across the face. But just as he broke free from the man's grip, his hair was grabbed tightly. Interesting. I didn't expect Yu Wensi, who hates fox beastmen, to take in a little fox as a sister. Pushing Minjun's head down on the table, he said, "Look at how cute you are. Why don't you follow me from now on? I'll definitely make sure you." However, before he could finish his sentence, a low, elegant voice, laced with anger, suddenly echoed in everyone's ears. "Why don't you tell us what you want to do with him?" Minjun's eyes instantly lit up, and he quickly looked towards the source of the voice. But in the next second, his whole body froze. Yu Wensi, partially shifted into his beast form, slowly approached. With each heavy step, dark red blood dripped from his tape-wrapped hands. Not only that, but his eyes had also turned red. An invisible pressure instantly filled the air, as if he would crush them to dust in the next second. The man who called himself Ling Shou gripped Minjun's hair tightly. "Nini, don't come any closer, or I'll kill him immediately." Yu Wensi gave a cold laugh, his sharp fangs seemingly glinting. "You could try if you're not afraid of death. Get out of here while I can still control myself." The high-ranking carnivorous with Beastman's words held almost no self-awareness after his partial transformation. The bloodline suppression he exuded far exceeded their expectations. The Fox Beastmen exchanged glances and could only turn tail and run. Minjun, however, threw his arms around Yu Wensi. "Sister, you're finally back." Unexpectedly, he was pushed away with disgust. Minjun looked at Yu Wensi's back with confusion, but what's wrong? In the bathroom, icy cold water relentlessly washed over his body. But Yu Wensi still felt it wasn't enough. His bloodlust was out of control. He craved blood. He wanted to punch something, to smash something to pieces. Just then, a worried Minjun rushed into the bathroom. He saw Yu Wensi slumped Wuli de Tandao 在角落里 in the corner. "Are you okay?" Faced with the boy's cautious concern, Yu Wensi snarled at him to go away. Unexpectedly, Minjun wasn't afraid. Instead, he stepped forward and hugged him. "That I don't know what happened to you, or why you become like this, but you clearly need someone." Yu Wensi resisted at first, trembling as he pushed the boy's arms away. and oh, go away. Minjun started to cry that I won't leave. I want to stay with you. Even if you hurt me, I still feel safest by your side. Yu Wenxi's initial resistance eventually turned into a soft murmur. Please don't leave me. Minjun comforted him, saying, Sister, don't worry. I'll never leave you. Soothed by Minjun, Yu Wenxi's consciousness gradually cleared. When he woke up, he found a small boy lying beside him. He nudged the boy's shoulder. Are you stupid? Being close to a berserking beast man is dangerous, you know? Aren't you afraid I'll hurt you? Minjun slowly opened his eyes, mumbling, Am I afraid? Yes, but I'm more afraid that something will happen to Sister. Yu Wenxi wrapped a clean towel around him and said haughtily, I'm fine. I'm more worried about you, little ancestor. He tapped the boy's forehead. Next time this happens, stay away from me. Do you hear me? Minjun blinked his innocent eyes, absent-mindedly listening to the big bad wolf's lecture. He didn't feel annoyed. Instead, he laughed cheerfully. Yu Wenxi asked with some displeasure, What are you laughing at? Minjun gently rubbed against Yu Wenxi's head and said affectionately, Minjun loves Sister the most. Because Minjun's constitution was so poor, Yu Wenxi created a special training schedule for him over the next few days. Wake up at 5:30 a.m., eat breakfast, and start running at 6 a.m. At 2 p.m., they would do 3 hours of basic physical training. When Minjun was too tired to run, he begged Yu Wenxi to sit down and rest for a while. The sunlight fell on them, and even the air felt refreshingly pleasant. Minjun curiously touched the small flowers by the roadside. Yu Wenxi found his innocent expression amusing. Have you never climbed a mountain before? Why does everything seem so new to you? Minjun admitted that this was his first time playing in the mountains. Although it was tiring, he was also very happy. Speaking of which, Minjun became a little worried about Yu Wenxi. He felt that his sister hadn't been in a good mood these past few days and wondered if she had something on her mind. Yu Wenxi quickly waved his hand and said, It's nothing. I'm just worried about you. The coach said your physical condition is very poor, as if you've been sick in bed for a long time, causing muscle atrophy. Minjun breathed a sigh of relief. His sister was worried about this. He then comforted Yu Wenxi. Don't worry. He explained that although he was born into a wealthy family, he was confined to the house as a child. Every day, he faced empty rooms and his tearful mother. He was only occasionally allowed to walk in the garden. Not only was he not allowed to go out until he was 10 years old, but he also couldn't jump or run. He had to be ladylike and quiet at all times. So, he felt that being able to bask in the sun was a blessing. Hearing this, Yu Wenxi hugged the boy with heartache. It's all right now. Let's keep going. They then arrived at the shrine of the divine tree. It was a local custom that any wish made to the tree god would come true. Although most people came here to pray for love, Yu Wenxi's wish was for Minjun to be healthy. After hearing this, Minjun also seemed eager to try. He immediately knelt down beside Yu Wenxi in a similar manner that I want to make a wish too. I hope Sister will always be healthy and live happily with Xiao Jun forever. Yu Wenxi smiled, his eyes crinkling. You might as well wish for me to make a lot of money in the future. Does everyone remember that rabbit, Bai from before? 3 years ago, when he first met Yang Hui. He also came here to pray for his own relationship, but the facts proved that she wasn't meant for him. Because today is Yang Hui's wedding, Yu Wenxi didn't want to attend out of personal reasons, so he brought Minjun mountain climbing. But Xiao Jun, I've figured it out now. Let's go together. Now that I have you with me, I can face anything. At this moment, the two had just arrived at the wedding venue. They saw a delicate-looking lop-eared beast man with flowers pinned to his chest, pointing Yu Wenxi the way. He said Xiao Hui was waiting for him upstairs. Yu Wenxi naturally knew who he was. So he told Minjun to wait downstairs obediently, and then he went upstairs, familiar with the way. Unbeknownst to him, the little guy quietly followed. After a while, a jumble of noises came from inside the room. Minjun curiously peeked through the crack in the door. He saw Yu Wenxi wearing a pair of rabbit ears on his head. His usual casual short-sleeve shirt had been replaced by a light pink, cinched-waist short skirt. Surprisingly, it suited him quite well. It gave him a rather alluring look. Wearing a skirt for the first time, Yu Wenxi felt unnatural all over. He tried to break the awkwardness by saying, that lop-eared. I've met him. He seems all right. He should treat Huijia well. Yang Hui smiled and helped Yu Wenxi adjust his bangs that I know. Xiaoxi will also find someone who treats you well, someone who truly loves you. Hearing this, Yu Wensi felt a jolt, and words he had suppressed for a long time poured out. If simply being good to someone can win their heart, then I think I can do it. I'm definitely no worse than that lop-eared. He didn't understand why the people he liked never chose him. Even though his words were earnest, the smile on Yang Hui's lips remained gentle and calm. She even told him in a serious tone that might not be love. It's just a habitual dependence. She always felt that every time Yu Wensi looked at her, it was as if he was looking at someone else through her. You seem to miss that person a lot. Was he also a white rabbit beast man? After a long silence, Yu Wensi nodded. He admitted that he had complicated feelings for me meowing. At this moment, Minjun, who was peeking through the crack in the door, had a complex look in his eyes. Time flew by, and it was evening. Yu Wensi, who had been busy all day, was feeling unwell and was about to take Minjun home when he saw the little guy lying on the ground, drowsy. He then remembered that he had forgotten to tell Minjun that the drinks here contained alcohol. Yu Wensi was speechless. He quickly scooped the little guy up. Minjun was startled awake by the movement. He wrapped his arms around the big wolf's neck and mumbled, "Sister, do you like Huijia? Don't like her. Like me, okay?" Although drunken words shouldn't be taken seriously, Yu Wensi couldn't help but laugh and agree indulgently. Okay. Sister doesn't like her anymore. Like Xiao Jun don't like rabbits. Okay? White foxes are nice to pet. So soft. Sister, you look good in a wedding dress too. Only wear it for me to see in the future. Finally hearing these words, Yu Wensi made a questioning sound. Minjun continued, "Promise me, don't ever leave Xiao Jun again." Okay, I won't leave. Although they promised not to leave each other at that time, Yu Wensi later broke that promise for 6 years. More than 2,000 days and nights. How much can change in such a long time? Minjun didn't know, but this time he finally caught him. Brilliant sunlight streamed into the room. Yu Wensi opened his eyes with some difficulty. Then, he found himself lying on a luxurious 500-meter bed, and his hands were chained. What the hell? Was he imprisoned? He got out of bed barefoot and pulled open the curtains. The dazzling sunlight almost made him unable to open his eyes. Looking at the unfamiliar surroundings outside the window, Yu Wensi was completely dumbfounded. Who was so wicked as to bring him to this godforsaken place? Suddenly, an image of Minjun flashed through his mind. But on second thought, he couldn't believe it. Xiao Jun's health had always been poor, and he was so innocent. How could he possibly imprison him? At this moment, inside the Jian family's building, Jian Shaohan, the head of the family who held the family's lifeline in his hands, handed Minjun a gift. He said that a young lady admired him very much and wanted to meet him. Minjun absent-mindedly replied, "Okay," but he couldn't help but worry in his heart. "Sister, can you hold on until I get back?" However, his aunt chattered on, expressing her desire to set him up with this Miss Me. Minjun politely said that Miss Me was a lovely squirrel, but he wasn't interested in her. Unexpectedly, his aunt gave him a meaningful look. "Silly child, since you were born into a wealthy and influential family, how can you have the right to talk about love?" Speaking of this, his aunt suddenly asked Minjun, "I heard you brought someone back from outside last night." Although Minjun had already prepared himself mentally for the possibility of slipping up regarding Wensi, being suddenly questioned by his aunt made his heart race uncontrollably. He forced himself to remain calm and asked, "What do you mean?" Jian Shaohan, put down her coffee. You're young. Having these kinds of needs is understandable. She warned him, "Don't let yourself get tripped up by messy people." Minjun calmly stated that he knew his limits. Jian Shaohan placed her hands on his shoulders. In an irrefutable elder's tone, she told him to make time to meet with that squirrel, Mississippi. Minjun outwardly agreed with a chuckle, but inwardly he thought, sooner or later, I will seize the position of head of the family, and I will crush you, and along with it. That day will come soon. A moment later, Minjun got into the car heading towards the villa. He opened the gift box from earlier. Inside was a striking SCHLA diamond pendant. He had owned a pendant before, a cheap trinket from a street vendor. But Wensi, after much trouble, had found a master to bless it and then personally placed it around his neck, wishing him health, happiness, and well-being. 6 years ago, when Jian Shaohan brought Minjun home, he heartlessly threw that pendant away. He had said that Wensi only liked him for the obedient and refined persona he projected, his appearance, and the part of him that resembled me meowing. Perhaps in a few years, he would forget. Thinking this, Minjun slowly closed the box. Whether his aunt was right or not didn't matter now. He had already captured his sister. As for everything else, he would deal with it later. Shortly after, inside the mountain villa, the housekeeper handed Minjun a set of clothes. "Miss, the one you brought back last night." Minjun said there was no need to bother. He would personally take care of her. The clothes were made based on the measurements he took while holding Wincy that night. He wasn't sure if they would fit. He had just reached the stairs when he smelled the unique scent of a gray wolf. It seemed the sedative had worn off. A wicked smile crept across Minjun's face. The trap he had set in the bedroom would soon come in handy. He went to the bedroom. Opening the door, he didn't see Wincy. In the next second, the gray wolf grabbed his hand and, with lightning speed, tightly gripped Minjun's throat. Minjun instantly transformed into a picture of innocence. Whimpering, "Sister." Wincy's eyes widened in shock. "Who are you?" Minjun grabbed her fingers and kissed them. Then, feigning weakness, he said, "It feels like it's going to rain. My leg hurts so much. Sister, can you hold me?" Hearing this, Wincy suddenly remembered something. The year Xiao Jun left, he had shielded her from a knife, leaving him with a leg injury. She wanted to ask Minjun why he had locked her up, but Minjun said, "I haven't seen you in 6 years. I missed you so much, sister. Elise, wegen Sie hat Minjun zeitlich, I'm sorry. See you now. I'm so sorry." A glint of cunning flashed in Minjun's eyes. "Sister, I never want to be separated from you again." Inside the mountain villa, Wincy looked out the window, bewildered. "Where are we?" Minjun gazed at her with a hint of obsession. He casually replied, "This is the Jin family's vacation villa." He remembered his sister saying once that when she got older, she wanted to find a quiet, comfortable place to enjoy her later years. And this place was perfect, large, and very suitable for keeping a freedom-loving gray wolf. Wincy, unaware that she had become prey, was slightly surprised. That was just a joke from so long ago. "But your family really is wealthy." In the next second, Minjun hooked his finger under her dress strap. "Sister, would you be willing to stay here with me always?" Wincy, slightly embarrassed, took his hand and changed the subject. "Let me help you button your shirt first." Minjun responded with an eager, "Okay." It seemed his sister still wasn't used to intimate contact. He shouldn't be so hasty. Prey must be approached slowly. In the bedroom, Wincy carefully massaged Minjun's calf. "Does it hurt a lot?" Minjun said, almost coquettishly, "It feels very comfortable." Sister's massage technique is even better than before. Wincy gently stroked Minjun's leg, her heart aching. Back then, when the Wolf King returned to challenge her for power, Xiao Jun had risked his life to protect her, taking a knife blow for her. It was while taking him to a large hospital for treatment that they encountered inspectors, leading to their 6-year separation. A moment later, she pulled the blanket over Minjun. "Get some sleep." Minjun stared at her intently. "I want you to tell me a bedtime story, sister. Or tell me what you've been doing these past 6 years." "Nothing much, really." After coaxing the little fox to sleep, Wincy left the room. After the Jian family took Minjun away, his life had been as miserable as it could be. He not only lost his standing in the gang wars, but was also driven out of the place he had called home since childhood. Ran off to the underground scene, got picked up by a sugar daddy, and ended up working as a security guard. Who would have thought he'd run into Minjun here? Even now, he hadn't forgotten the words Jian Shaohan spoke when they took Minjun away. "Since you can't give him a better life, you should give up these unrealistic ideas and let him embrace a brighter future. Besides, gray wolves and foxes are natural enemies. Your existence will only bring him unnecessary trouble." So now, Wincy felt lucky just to see Minjun. However, he had already agreed to Jian Shaohan's terms, so he couldn't stay. A servant brought up 2 pills. "These are the pills Miss takes every noon to help her sleep better." Once he picked up the bottle, examined it uneasily, and felt like it couldn't be anything good. He immediately said they weren't needed today, as Minjun was already asleep. By the way, do you know where the security uniform I wore yesterday is? The maid said Miss had personally changed him, and she didn't know. Wincy also wanted to ask the maid for a phone to call his family, but was told the Jaju forbade Miss from using a phone, and there was no signal in the mountains anyway. Once he felt a headache coming on. He'd been missing for several days. Hadn't his gang noticed? Stuck out in the wilderness, he couldn't just walk out on foot. Wincy was still unwilling to give up, wanting to ask about the signal that should be available at the foot of the mountain. The maid, however, said there was an oath, but it required Miss's permission. Wincy was speechless. Wasn't that just suffocating? Meanwhile, Minjun had a nightmare. He heard his mother and aunt arguing, and his grandmother telling him to be obedient. Finally, he heard Wincy calling him stray. Minjun woke up with a start. He wouldn't let his sister leave him. He clumsily scrambled out of bed, but a sudden pain shot through his left leg. The next second, he fell to the floor, tears streaming down his face, crying out for his sister. Just as he shouted Wincy's name, Wincy appeared, leaning lazily against the doorframe. "Let me see which naughty little fox is calling my name." Minjun's eyes widened, and he rushed into Wincy's arms. "Sister, I thought you didn't want me anymore." His expression was as pitiful as could be. Wincy patted his back gently. "How could that be? I said I'd never leave you, Minjun." He thought, asterisk if you're telling the truth, then why did you give me to Jian Shaohan 6 years ago? And why haven't you seen me since? Asterisk liar. A lying gray wolf will only show their true heart when they're locked up. Asterisk Wincy, subconsciously still thinking Minjun was a child, ruffled his hair comfortingly. Minjun blushed instantly, embarrassed. Wincy smiled happily. Asterisk looks like that fox scientific breeding manual was right. Little foxes get shy when they lack a sense of security. Lots of kisses, hugs, and lifting them up will do the trick. Asterisk he then stroked Minjun's fluffy hair. "I heard from the maid there's an amusement park nearby. You always wanted to go, but I never had the time. Do you want to go there this time?" Minjun agreed happily on the surface, but secretly clenched his fists. He knew Wincy still wanted to escape. Asterisk why? "Why won't you stay with me?" Asterisk suddenly, Wincy clutched his head, cursing under his breath. "Why does it have to be now?" His temperature began to rise rapidly, and his wolf ears popped out. The blood in his body began to boil. Asterisk looks like tonight will be a sleepless one. The little fox bullying the big gray wolf. It's finally happening. Foxes are truly the most cunning. Not only do they know how to play, but they've also mastered a whole set of teasing techniques. Asterisk now, in the bathroom. Wincy clamped a hand over his mouth. His blood was boiling, desperately craving more energy. In the past, when he shifted, he would find a quiet place to hide and endure it. But now he really couldn't hold on. Maybe he should have listened to his gang and just found someone to get it over with. Maybe then he wouldn't be in so much pain. Just then, the bathroom door opened. Minjun walked in with a blue bottle. He then wrapped his arms around the gray wolf's neck. "Drink this, and you won't feel bad." A moment later, Wincy regained some of his senses. He begged Minjun to let him leave. Minjun, thinking his plan had been discovered, asked weakly why. "Sister always says you'll never leave, Minjun, but you still want to go. Did I do something wrong?" "It's not that you did anything wrong. It's that staying here will hurt you." Minjun hugged the gray wolf tightly. "But I only want sister." Wincy leaned somewhat listlessly against Minjun's shoulder. He knew all this, but he couldn't. The next second, his vision blurred, and he fainted. He woke up the next morning to find Minjun already asleep, slumped over the bedside. He looked so sweet and pitiful that Wincy couldn't help but want to poke his cheek, but he didn't have the heart to wake him. So he carefully got out of bed. Seeing his security uniform and a newly bought cell phone on the table, Wincy snuck onto the balcony to call his subordinates. Unexpectedly, they already knew he was missing. His boss even said he'd fallen head over heels for a little beauty and specifically told the others not to disturb him. His boss then hung up, leaving Wincy fuming and wanting to smash the phone. But the next second, his wrist was grabbed. "Brother, what are you doing?" At that moment, Wincy felt inexplicably nervous, stammering, "Nothing, just arranging some work stuff with my guys." Minjun lowered his eyes, looking somewhat dejected. "If it's not urgent, brother, will you accompany me to the amusement park to ride the Ferris wheel? Didn't you say you wanted to take me before?" That afternoon at the amusement park, this entire mountain belonged to the Jian family. The world of the rich was truly unimaginable. But Wincy felt anxious, recalling what his subordinate had said. He had a feeling that Minjun's actions were likely. On the Ferris wheel, Minjun gazed out the window, looking somewhat downcast. "Actually, I didn't want to ride the Ferris wheel first. According to the original plan, the amusement park would be cleared today, and brother wouldn't wake up so soon. We would have tried the other new rides first, and then, when we were completely tired, we'd ride the Ferris wheel." Around 7 p.m., I even prepared a grand fireworks show. Wincy looked at Minjun apologetically. "I'm sorry, Minjun. I didn't know any of this." Minjun's eyes held no emotion. "Of course, brother wouldn't know my thoughts. Because I wanted to surprise you." so it was kept absolutely secret. But actually, it's not that brother doesn't know, it's that you don't want to think about it. You don't want to spend time with Minjun anymore, right? No matter how much Wincy wanted to refute that last sentence, all he could say was, "I'm sorry," because he had indeed guessed that Minjun might have other motives and intentions, but he hadn't taken him seriously. He didn't know if it was because he was afraid or because he no longer liked Minjun. Minjun let out a cold laugh, his expression full of mockery. For some reason, Wincy suddenly felt relieved, thinking that the grown-up Minjun was his true self. Then, Minjun leaned close to his EAR.SO. "Brother wants to leave me quickly, right? No, I won't allow it. Brother promised me that we would be together forever." Wincy interrupted him. He admitted that 6 years ago, he had indeed thought about living with Minjun. But later, someone else had taken his place and could offer Minjun better circumstances. Now that the little fox had grown up, he had even less reason to stay by his side. "That I'm really happy to see you all grown up. That's enough for me." As soon as he finished speaking, Wincy felt a splitting headache. The veins on his forehead throbbed. Minjun leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Brother, does it hurt?" What a coincidence. The estrus suppressant has worn off. Wincy finally understood. There was something wrong with that suppressant. As expected, the most exciting parts are always saved for the next episode, because the 3 days and 3 nights of torment had finally reached this moment. The big bad wolf, blindfolded, gritted his teeth and kept saying, but Minjun didn't flinch. Instead, he looked delighted. "Oh, you see, the biggest change between us isn't you, brother. You used to like Minjun so much. Now you're telling me to get lost." Wincy snorted and turned his head away. "Look at what you've done these past few days. Colluding with that old fart, Yang, bringing me here, and now tampering with the suppressant. You're not the obedient Minjun from 6 years ago." Clearly, Minjun couldn't accept the fact that his brother no longer liked him. He ripped off the blindfold from Wincy's face. He quickly added, "No, it's not like that. If my aunt had taken me away back then, I would never have seen you as my brother again. Besides, we're not blood related, and you haven't fulfilled your responsibilities and obligations. So how can you still be my brother? Now, stay by my side forever as my partner." Wincy hadn't expected the once obedient little fox to have completely become a fanatic. Although he knew it was wrong, the onset of his estrus prevented him from uttering any words of refusal. He only felt the overhead lights were blindingly bright. The next day, Wincy was trembling all over, his neck aching. Minjun appeared with a bouquet of roses, feigning innocence. "Brother, what's wrong?" Wincy immediately bristled. "Stop pretending to be innocent. Untie me." Minjun's mood brightened considerably. He teased, "Brother, are you so angry? Are you dissatisfied with last night?" Wincy hadn't expected a fox beast to be stronger than him, a wolf beast man. There wasn't a single part of his body that didn't hurt. He gritted his teeth. "How could I be? You were the one having a good time last night." Minjun burst out laughing. "Thank you for the compliment, brother. I'll work harder." Wincy angrily threw off the covers and got out of bed, saying he was hungry and wanted to eat. "And were you lying to me about your leg hurting before?" Minjun lowered his eyes dejectedly. "That I didn't lie to you." In the bathroom, Wincy stared blankly at himself in the mirror. He sighed helplessly. What a mess this all was. He hadn't expected to be so frustrated, to the point where Minjun only knew how to take. After he'd taken a simple shower, Minjun even personally dressed him. "Minjun, you're quite attentive now that I've met you." Minjun blinked his large, innocent eyes. So, in Sister's eyes, I'm a useless good-for-nothing. But as long as Sister doesn't hate me anymore, even if you see me as useless, it's okay. Wincy didn't bother responding to his provocation, changing the subject instead. "Why do you have to love me like this? We could be the closest of family." Hearing this, the smile on Minjun's face froze. Is loving you some unforgivable crime? If we were family, would you not leave me then? He grasped Wincy's hand as he spoke. "The so-called family is just your excuse. I can't accept you leaving me. I also can't accept you being in a relationship with someone else. Sister, please have some pity on me. Love me a little more, okay?" Wincy fell silent again, unable to speak. He wasn't sure if he was even capable of love anymore. Just then, a servant reported that the head of the family had urgent business with Wincy. Seeing that Minjun was about to leave, Wincy's attitude softened. He asked how long he would be gone. Minjun looked back at him reluctantly. "I'll be back before afternoon. Don't leave me," he pleaded. After Minjun left, Wincy stood there in a daze for a long time. He still couldn't accept Minjun's possessive love. And as a gray wolf beastman, how could he be content to be caged? So, after eating and drinking his fill, Uwensi immediately asked a servant for his phone. He also grabbed several extra-large Band-Aids. After all, the marks on his neck needed to be covered. The big bad wolf had ultimately been devoured by the little fox, but he still couldn't accept such possessive love. So he fled without stopping. But how could the little fox let him go so easily? Even if it meant chasing him to the ends of the earth, he would bring his sister back. Uwensi got into his subordinate's car and closed his eyes to rest. But the marks on his neck were too conspicuous. Sibai, his subordinate, was understandably shocked. Someone had actually managed to injure the notoriously violent and powerful Shijia, and on such a sensitive area like the back of his neck. It seemed Shijia's little lover was quite the force to be reckoned with. He started to imagine all sorts of dramatic scenarios. Uwensi glared at him irritably. "Keep staring, and I'll throw you out." This made Sibai sigh. Shijia truly was an enigma. He remembered when they first met, Shijia had exuded an aura of complete abstinence. Back then, he yearned for the thrill of the gangster life, so he joined this security company, rumored to have ties to the underworld. But just as he was about to be promoted to team leader, Shijia suddenly appeared and took the position. Naturally, he hadn't been happy about it and directly challenged Shijia, saying, "You're the one who got in through the back door." But he hadn't expected Shijia to be even stronger than him. He would never forget the fierce look in Shijia's eyes. If he hadn't backed down, his hand might have actually been broken. Back then, Shijia was a loner, never interacting with anyone. Later, he learned it was because Shijia had spent so long in underground fighting rings that he developed a mild form of selective mutism. But things were much better now. At least he could joke with Shijia. Back at the security company dormitory, Sibai couldn't help but tease Shijia. "Although it's wonderful that you've finally blossomed, are you sure your choice of partner is appropriate?" He nearly got his head sliced off by a sharp wolf claw for that. "Stop gossiping about me behind my back." "Understood." Sibai was so scared he nearly wet himself. "Understood," he quickly replied. Uwensi finally gave him a gentler look that, "I'll be resting for a few days. You'll take over my tasks. Remember to schedule an appointment with Dr. Lee for a house call tomorrow. Also, investigate Huan Shishir and the Jian family's eldest daughter's background." Sibai diligently jotted down the tasks in his notebook. He was just about to ask who the Jian family's eldest daughter was when the door slammed shut. Meanwhile, at the Jian family estate, the servants fearfully reported Uwensi's escape to Minjun. But Minjun didn't blame them for their failure. He knew his sister was a free spirit. Chains couldn't bind her, and a mere villa certainly couldn't contain her. Even the drugs could only control her temporarily. But it didn't matter. He would bring his sister back. Minjun clutched the pillow on the bed tightly, as if that would somehow make it feel like his sister was still beside him. But what was he to do? His sister had just escaped and was surely on high alert. He'd been lucky to succeed last time. This time, trying to be considerate of his rut will probably be extremely difficult. The next day, Uwensi's injuries still ached faintly. He grumbled that the little guy had practically used him as a teething ring. But when he thought about how Minjun had genuinely cared for him, he couldn't bring himself to blame him. He figured he could just apply to his boss for a transfer to a different location or industry. Just then, Sibai arrived with the medical examiner. It was a cute raccoon beastman named Xiaotang. After a brief introduction, Uwensi recounted the key points of the past few days' events. Xiaotang seemed quite surprised after hearing him out, that you're saying someone used some kind of suppressant on you during your heat? But as far as I know, that kind of drug has long been banned. In severe cases, it can even cause permanent damage to a beastman's body, like loss of emotions, essentially turning them into mindless shells forever locked away. Uwensi clenched his fists in anger. After Minjun was taken away 6 years ago, was he also subjected to this? He couldn't bear to think about it. How did the little guy endure all this? But Xiaotang told him not to worry too much. You said you still had a normal heat after the drug was used? That means it only had a short-term suppressive effect. It should be metabolized and expelled from the body. He then drew 2 tubes of blood from Uwensi, intending to take them back for further analysis. Just get some good rest these next few days. If your boss insists on making you work, I'll write you a note and give him a stern warning. Uwensi was instantly amused. You make it sound like my boss is some kind of heartless slave driver. As Xiaotang was leaving, he gave Uwensi some iodine, gauze, and waterproof bandages and advised him to be careful and moderate his activities recently. Uwensi sighed helplessly and called his boss to request a transfer. His boss immediately refused. If you run off somewhere else, who will I find to replace you? Yu Wincy was a little nervous. Maybe Sibai could handle it, sir. The boss scoffed. Save it. That pup just caused me 2 problems. Guess what? He went behind my back and started investigating Huan Shishir. That old fox from the Jian family already came to me to complain. I had to pull the leash on that little Sibai. The Jian family and Huan Shishir are muddy waters we can't afford to stir. Yu Wincy was completely unnerved. Even his boss was afraid of the Jian family. It seemed he had to find a way to leave this mess as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, his boss then said, to appease that old fox, I signed a few contracts. The Jian family is holding a party in a few days, and I'm putting you in charge of security. Early that morning, Yu Wincy had a dream about spring, and the person in his dream was the very fox he was trying to escape from, Minjun. Even more absurdly, he was actually enjoying it. Looking at the wet bedsheet, Yu Wincy was both embarrassed and confused. Was he really that starved? He recalled what Dr. Xiaotang had said, that this kind of reaction was normal. But why did it have to be about Minjun? He had been planning to leave this place soon, but his boss wouldn't allow it and had even assigned him the Jian family party security detail. And Sibai was confined for his investigation. Just as Yu Wincy finished washing up, Sibai showed up with a big bag of 8 + 1 bro. You look so haggard. Did someone suck you dry? Yu Wincy snapped. Cut the crap. About the thing I asked you to investigate. The boss said they came knocking. You must have found something. Sibai handed him a file. The person in the photo was Jian Xiaohan, the one who took Minjun away all those years ago. Remembering that made Yu Wincy seethe with anger. Then Sibai said, his information is pretty clean. It's the Jian family's eldest daughter who seems off. He then rambled on, the gist being that Minjun, as the Jian family's only direct heir, despite being frail since childhood, was very bright. At only 20 years old, he was already a renowned jewelry designer. But many were waiting to see him fail, whispering that he was born from a lowly concubine. Those from the extended family were constantly scheming to pull him, the lowly bastard, from his position as heir. Hearing this, Yu Wincy crushed a bottle in his bare hand. So Minjun hadn't had it easy after returning to the Jian family. But ultimately, it was his own fault for being powerless. If he had insisted on keeping Minjun with him, would things have turned out differently? But Sibai's next words completely shocked him. That I heard this Jian family eldest daughter is going to be betrothed to your family's second miss. What? He's so young. How can he be betrothed? Sibai said it was perfectly normal. The Mi family has always been in the jade business. Their connections are far stronger than the Jian family's. The Jian family wants to expand into the jewelry market. It's a win-win situation, a match made in heaven. Sibai continued to chatter, but Yu Wincy had already gotten up and put on his jacket. After all, Minjun is about to be betrothed. How could he, as his older sister, not go see him? Although Yu Wincy was saying it was nothing to get excited about, this was precisely the result he wanted. But why did his heart feel so heavy? Yu Wincy quickly changed into his security uniform and arrived at the Jian family's ballroom. He then saw the masked Minjun leading a girl down the stairs. Following that, he gave her a gentlemanly kiss on the hand. Then, the two began to dance together in the center of the hall. The onlookers exclaimed how well matched they were. They heard that both families were very optimistic about this marriage. And in the corner, Yu Wincy silently watched all of this, feeling another sharp pang in his heart. Just then, a beastman girl who seemed to be in heat rushed straight towards the center of the ballroom. Her face was contorted due to the sudden surge of her heat, frightening the guests present. Fortunately, Yu Wincy reacted quickly and angrily, subduing her in 2 moves. He raised his head and, disregarding his status, yelled at the stunned Minjun in front of him. This person needs to be restrained. Get out of here. Thankfully, no one was injured in the incident. Only 1 or 2 guests, because they were standing too close, were affected by the scent of the girl in heat and were now resting in a private room on the 2nd floor. So, Yu Wincy escorted the girl in heat away, and then found Minjun's room. He heard the sound of 2 people talking inside. Minjun said he had suppressants and just needed an injection. The girl said that stuff was very harmful to the body. Minjun replied, if I don't use a suppressant, are you going to comfort me? Hearing this, Yu Wincy paused with his hand on the doorknob. He just stood outside, hands hanging by his sides, seemingly lost in thought. Then, with a creak, the door opened. Yu Wincy quietly retreated into the shadows, watching until the young woman had walked away. Only then did Yu Wincy slip into the room. The dim lighting inside created a rather ambiguous atmosphere, perfect for young lovers. Yu Wensi said coldly and expressionlessly. I heard Miss Jian has needs. Hearing his sister's familiar voice, Minjun was startled. The next second, his hand holding the suppressant was grabbed. This stuff is very harmful to your body. If you use it too much, you'll be ruined. But Minjun scoffed, so what if I'm ruined? It's none of your business. He then slapped Yu Wensi's hand away. Didn't want to leave me? So why are you interfering now? Is trespassing into a guest's bedroom part of your job description? Or have you finally decided you don't want to be my relative, but my partner? But it's too late, sister. I'm getting engaged soon. Yu Wensi, after all, was still smitten. And it just so happened that Minjun suddenly went in a heat. Now, there's a good show to watch. At this moment, Minjun questioned why Yu Wensi was there. But unfortunately, even if sister wants to come back to me, she's destined to never be able to stand in the sunlight because she's already agreed to the arranged marriage Aunt requested. Yu Wensi said nothing in response and left the room expressionlessly. But just as Minjun was feeling dejected, his sister returned. He was met with a forceful kiss. Look into my eyes and tell me, is that girl really your fiancée? Minjun felt a pang of disappointment at these words. So Yu Wensi had come to find him not to settle the score after recovering, but because of his supposed fiancée. He then stubbornly tried to provoke Yu Wensi. Sister, look, I'm already in my 20s. Isn't it normal to have a partner? Besides, sister already rejected me, didn't you? Look at my pulse now. Isn't it about to explode from the heat? I really want someone to help me. Yu Wensi clearly didn't believe him. He lowered his head and gripped Minjun's chin, demanding he tell the truth. Minjun relented. He and the squirrel girl had only met 2 or 3 times. She wasn't his fiancée. Moreover, Meili was heterosexual and already had a long-term partner. But Nanfang Nigu came from a well-off family. So, to avoid the arranged marriage set up by his parents, he made a deal with Minjun to pretend to be a couple in front of their parents and the public. Yu Wensi released his grip. A fake engagement. Minjun beamed. So, sister doesn't believe me? Is that why you specifically came to ask me about this? Can I interpret this as sister being jealous? Yu Wensi blushed and looked away. Don't be ridiculous. I wouldn't be jealous. Then, lowering his eyes, he added, a little bashfully, well, I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that either. Even if Minjun really was with that squirrel miss, I should have been happy for him. He had impulsively barged into Minjun's room, completely losing his head. But Minjun didn't blame him. Instead, he pulled Yu Wensi closer. So, sister ruined my plans, and now you want to run? And just like that, Yu Wensi became a fish on a chopping block. He decided to stop running. After all, no matter how much he protested, his body wouldn't lie. It was like a little fox eating a meal, only to be caught red-handed. Honestly, it's mortifying. The little fox then asked the big bad wolf, how does it feel? Is it much better than last time? Yu Wensi, unable to stand the teasing any longer, resignedly hugged the little fox. Our Minjun is the best. They had planned to continue their sparring, but the doorbell rang, startling them both. How could I forget about that squirrel miss? There was nothing to do but face the music. Yu Wensi calmly headed to the bathroom to take a shower. Meanwhile, Minjun opened the door, and Meili's eyes widened in shock. What's going on? Did you find someone to help you? Minjun neither confirmed nor denied. By then, the suppressants were wearing off. He changed the subject, asking her how things were going downstairs. Meili's brain felt like rusty gears, taking a moment to process. The guests are all dancing downstairs. They haven't noticed you. The hosts have been gone so long. But if Aunt Jian finds out, she'll be furious. Minjun dismissively replied, who cares about her? Meili turned to leave, thinking, maybe I should come back later. But the next second, she heard another person's voice from inside the room. Minjun quickly tried to stop her, but Meili had already seen the scene inside, even making eye contact with the big bad wolf's intense gaze. Meili's face darkened in shock. She let out a scream. Minjun quickly shut the door. Meili grabbed his hand. Are you crazy? That woman looks fierce and dangerous, and you're vulnerable right now. What if she takes advantage of your weakness and devours you whole? Minjun reassured her, don't worry, that won't happen. Meili sighed, rubbing her forehead, that I can't believe Minjun is a romantic. I really don't understand. What possible reason could make a fox like Minjun willingly submit to a wolf? Before leaving, she gave him a serious warning. Fine, but be careful. If you get eaten alive, I'm finding a new business partner. The big bad wolf, now incredibly embarrassed, announced he should leave too. Being caught red-handed like this was truly mortifying. He imagined the sweet, innocent-looking grasswood beast man must be terrified. Minjun tugged on the big bad wolf's sleeve. He knew his plea was futile, but he still clung to him dramatically. Sometimes I envy Yuwensi, being able to be open and honest with the one he loves. Two people in love. Why can't sister and I be like that? Yuwensi's heart softened, but he knew foxes and wolves were different. Minjun's family would never accept him. Minjun immediately started tearing up. Sister, what are you still afraid of? I don't care about any of that. I only care about you. Yuwensi pulled him close, his heart aching. He couldn't lie to himself anymore. After what they had just done, there was no going back. The big bad wolf couldn't deny his feelings any longer. He decided to stay and protect the little fox. Outside the Lost Duke Hotel, Yuwensi told his younger brother, I want to apply to be Jian's personal bodyguard. His brother was shocked, stunned, and disbelieving. He wondered if someone had possessed Yuwensi. As a wolf, he craved freedom. How could he willingly become someone's personal bodyguard? Yuwensi calmly explained, times have changed. I want to earn some money and retire early. Inwardly, he scoffed at the idea of bowing and scraping for a bit of money. But when he thought of Minjun's fragile, vulnerable figure, he couldn't bear to leave the little fox alone. He slung an arm around his brother's shoulder. Oh, you know anything about this kind of work? His brother replied, it's not about connections anymore. Like you said, times are changing. They post job listings online. You just submit a resume and wait for a response. Yuwensi looked at the listing and lost his composure. Asterisk carnivorous beastman, bachelor's degree or higher. Fluency in at least 3 languages. Preference given to veterans with 10+ years of experience. Asterisk. Asterisk, it's just a personal bodyguard job. How can the requirements be so ridiculous? Asterisk, he was so angry he almost threw his phone. Just then, a sports car pulled up beside them. It was the boss from the previous phone call. He said Yuwensi should get in the car alone. Inside the car, the boss looked at Yuwensi through his sunglasses. I just heard you're interested in Jia's personal bodyguard position. Strange. You vehemently refused the opportunity before. Yuwensi said he was young and impulsive then. Now he understands the benefits of having money. But the boss wasn't satisfied with this answer and told him to tell the truth. Yuwensi paused, feeling there was no need to hide anything. Besides, Xiao Jun's kidnappings had always gone so smoothly. Maybe the boss already knew about it. So he confessed, saying there was someone he cared about in the Jian family. The boss immediately teased. Unexpectedly, our old tree has finally blossomed. It just so happens that the Jian family asked me for a reliable bodyguard. Since you want to go so badly, I'll recommend you directly. Yuwensi immediately perked up, but his happiness didn't last 2 seconds. The boss added, this would be considered a labor dispatch. Even if you're hired by the Jian family, your employment agreement is still with me. You'll have to give me at least 60% of your salary. Yuwensi couldn't help but complain inwardly. As expected, anything could be done through the boss, as long as you had the money. But now, for Minjun, he'd be willing to give up not just 60%, but even his entire salary. A few days later, at the Jian family's old mansion, the assistant reported to the chairman. The chairman was very satisfied with Yuwensi's assessment and wanted to meet him personally. Hearing that he was going to meet Chairman Jian Shaohan, Yuwensi instinctively thought back to 6 years ago. It was that woman who had forcibly taken Minjun away. He was a little worried that she would recognize him and refuse to let him be Minjun's personal bodyguard. But no matter what, he had to take this opportunity to find out how Xiao Jun had become so paranoid and disturbed. In the study, Jian Shaohan looked at the documents in his hand, seemingly satisfied. Then he sized Yuwensi up. Then, with a slap, he pulled out a handgun. Can you use this? Try it. Yuwensi was taken aback by this action, wondering if Jian Shaohan hadn't recognized him. He'd barely used a gun before, but he still put on a brave face and said he could, but wasn't proficient. He picked up the Desert Eagle. He was surprised to find it was loaded. Wasn't gun control strict in society now? How could Jian Shaohan casually toss this thing to a stranger? Wasn't he afraid he might have ulterior motives and shoot him? Jian Shaohan continued to stare down at Yuwensi, his eyes seemingly urging him to try it. Yuwensi instinctively took a few steps back. I'm sorry. Our company doesn't allow us to hold gun licenses. And even without this, I can protect my employer's safety. Unexpectedly, it was this action that caught Jian Shaohan's attention UNC? Quite confident. Not bad. UNC met his probing gaze unflinchingly, yes. Jian Shaoan didn't seem to notice UNC's unease. He didn't seem to recognize his true identity either. He said he didn't need him to use a gun for now. If there was a need in the future, he would personally find someone to train him. The good news came so suddenly. He hadn't expected the interview to be so successful. The scene shifted to Minjun and his aunt drinking tea and playing chess in the old mansion. Jian Shaohan suddenly asked him, "How are you getting along with Mealy?" Minjun absent-mindedly replied, "Pretty good, thinking about the bodyguard he was supposed to have. Where is he?" And while he was called a bodyguard, he was actually a spy planted by his side. He wondered how he could get rid of him without anyone noticing. Jian Shaohan casually tossed a chess piece onto the board. Jian Song is coming back in a few days. He's your cousin. I don't know if you remember him. Minjun did remember. He was the Jian family's prodigal son. He was originally a candidate for inheritance, but then Jian Shaohan appeared. Jian Shaohan tapped his fingers on the table, but he's been at the company in Hong Kong all these years. I've asked him to take you and Lily there for a vacation in a few days to cultivate your relationship. But the security there is rather chaotic, so I've specifically found a bodyguard for you. He's training in the villa. I've already informed him. He's quite skilled. You can meet him first and get acquainted. Minjun naturally had no right to refuse, thinking that Jian Shaohan was even taking away his meager freedom. Soon, footsteps approached from behind at MR. My Xiao Jun is in your hands. Minjun composed himself and turned around. Nice to meet you. But his expression froze when he saw the person. Wensi had prepared himself beforehand, so he appeared calm. He pretended it was the first time he'd met Minjun and introduced himself. Wensi, your new personal bodyguard. It's a pleasure to meet you, young master. Who would have thought our little fox was not only cunning, but also a crybaby? If the big bad wolf ignored him, he'd cry. Now that he was by his side, he was still crying. And the big bad wolf fell for it every time. It seemed that those who cried to get candy. Last episode, Wensi infiltrated the Jian family and successfully became Minjun's personal bodyguard. The two even put on an act in front of Jian Shaohan, pretending to meet for the first time. Fortunately, Jian Shaohan didn't notice anything unusual and told them to chat and get to know each other. After watching the woman walk away, Wensi leaned close to Minjun's ear and whispered, "Miss Jian, please entrust yourself to me. I will definitely protect you." But Minjun wasn't buying it. Instead, he anxiously asked what was going on, saying, "Sister shouldn't be here." Wensi quickly reassured him, "Don't panic. Jian Shaohan didn't recognize me at all. It was so easy for me to get to your side." Minjun, acting strangely, grabbed Wensi's hand, insisting on taking him away from there. He said this wasn't a place Wensi should be. Wensi sighed helplessly and grabbed the little fox's hand. "What's wrong with you? Or have you started to dislike me after a few days apart?" Minjun quickly denied it. "It's not like that. It's because Jian Jia is dangerous. He just doesn't want sister to take any risks. My mother, Min Miaoying, the person you once loved, died here." As he said this, Minjun was heartbroken to the point of being unable to breathe. Wensi looked at him seriously. "It's because of this that I came back to you with this identity. Now let me protect you. From now on, Minjun, you also have to work hard to gain more resources to protect your sister. Minjun won't let me suffer the same fate as Min Miaoying, right? Besides, he's a fierce gray wolf. He's ultimately different from a white rabbit." Hearing these words, Minjun could no longer hold back his tears, which instantly filled his eyes. They also moistened Wensi's clothes. Wensi gently patted Minjun's back, sighing inwardly. "Just as you expected, Minjun, I've taken the first step. I hope you'll be honest with me. Don't disappoint me. I can also learn to be your best partner and work hard to stay by your side." However, Wensi never expected that being Jian Jia's personal bodyguard would be so troublesome. Checking his educational background and gun license was one thing, but he couldn't understand any of the foreign language materials. Just then, Minjun asked from behind him, "Sister, you seem to have something on your mind." Hearing Minjun's voice, Wensi's mood instantly brightened. But when he turned around, he realized there was another person in the room. It was Miss Lily, the squirrel from before. Because Jian Shaoan was hosting a family dinner at the old mansion tonight, Minjun's fiancée had also come. Wensi's face immediately fell. Even though it was a fake relationship, he still felt bothered. Minjun unusually didn't notice anything amiss with his sister and introduced Lily with a smile. "This is my personal bodyguard, Wensi." Lily politely greeted, "Hello, sister." Then she realized that Yuwensi was the person in Minjun's room last time. She thought to herself, asterisk, what kind of bodyguard sits in the passenger seat? He's a specially hired assassin. Asterisk. As expected, Yuwensi bristled. Don't call me sister. Just call me Shijia. Asterisk, these people. Do they even understand the meaning of the word sister? Of course, only Minjun can call me that. Asterisk. Lily then timidly called out, Shijia. Yuwensi was very satisfied with her performance and took out a candy. Here, a reward for you. Lily carefully accepted it and then pointed to Minjun beside her. Aren't you going to give him one? He didn't need to look to know that Minjun was staring daggers at him, thinking, asterisk, what's wrong with this little couple? Do they both take me for a tool? Asterisk. Yuwensi, with arms crossed, leisurely said from the sofa, my candy is only for well-behaved children. He's not obedient, so he doesn't get any. You two should go in now. Otherwise, the head of the family will be waiting impatiently. At the Jin family dinner, Minjun, distracted, looked at his phone, thinking about what excuse he could use to leave and find his sister. Just then, someone walked over. Oh my. Yuwensi, being just an employee, naturally wasn't qualified to attend the family dinner. At this moment, he was already bored and started playing darts. He was even jealous of Minjun's closeness with Lily earlier. Just then, he received a message from Minjun, whining, sister, where did I not listen? Yuwensi was amused. This little brat dares to talk back. He replied, no reward then, and then typed another long message. But Minjun still didn't know what he did wrong. Yuwensi replied, then you get no reward today. But the little fox wouldn't give up. Sister, tell me in person. I want to see you at the swing set in the back garden after the dinner. Yuwensi smirked. The sly little fox has shown his tail again, but he just happened to fall for it. Last episode, the little fox invited the big bad wolf to meet in the back garden. At the Jin family dinner, Minjun was preoccupied, looking at his phone and wondering what excuse he could use to leave and go find his sister. Just then, someone approached at Oh my. Long time no see, Jinjun. You've grown even more beautiful. The person familiarly approached the little Foxd. Oh, you remember me? I'm your Songji. When you were little, you used to cling to my leg and say you wanted to marry me. Hearing this, Minjun's face immediately froze. At the same time, a phrase flashed through his mind. All that glitters is not gold. But as one of the hosts of this banquet, he had to greet his cousin generously. However, the other party pushed his luck. That's so formal. I remember when we were young, you always chased after me calling me Gidge. You were really adorable back then. I wonder if Jinjun has a fiancé now. If not, what do you think of me? However, Minjun didn't let him finish. He quickly interrupted, cousin, you're so funny. I already have a fiancé. A short while later, in the back garden, Yuwensi arrived at the swing as promised, only to find Minjun already waiting for him. He couldn't help but touch the little guy's head and ask if he was feeling unwell, wondering why he had left the banquet early. Minjun nodded, sort of. That Jin song is really annoying. His stare was constantly fixed on me. He's just like a disgusting creeper clinging to the future emperor. And what Jin Shaoan said to me, if I couldn't find a suitable marriage partner, they would choose someone suitable from the family to be my partner. And he said in a tone that brooked no argument. Just thinking about it makes me sick. As expected, foxes have cunning and deceitful blood running through their veins. No wonder Yuwensi hated foxes so much before. Thinking of this, Minjun suddenly grabbed the big bad wolf's hand. Sister, you haven't told me why I'm a bad boy again. A blush instantly crept up Yuwensi's face. He stammered for a long time, unable to say why. After all, he didn't want to admit that he had spoken out of jealousy. But Minjun couldn't care less. He just wanted his sister's candy in reward. The big bad wolf hugged Minjun with amusement. What other reward do you want? My whole being already belongs to you. Minjun looked at him seriously. Not enough. I want more. Just as the two were being affectionate, a click sounded. Yuwensi reflexively pulled out the steel pipe from his waist. Who's there playing tricks? Get out. Jin Song held his phone with a smug look. Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt your intimacy. My dear cousin, you just said you had a fiancé. Then who is this stranger? Yuwensi glared fiercely at the man in front of him. He absolutely couldn't let that photo spread. After all, such a scandal could bring great trouble to Minjun. However, Minjun grabbed the big bad wolf's hand and questioned Jin Song, what do you want? I don't want anything. I just find it strange why you don't want to marry me. Turns out you're hooking up with someone else. But then again, it makes sense. Your mother has lowly blood, even combined with the Jian family bloodline. It could only produce something shameless like you. As soon as he finished speaking, Yu Wensi stepped forward and punched the man. Shut up. Jian Song clutched his face, howling in pain. You lowly wretch. You dare to hurt me? Can you afford to damage this face of mine? Wait. At this moment, he recognized Yu Wensi as the Jian family's bodyguard and immediately started laughing mockingly. I thought it was someone important. A gray wolf is nothing but cheap meat used as a shield. A bastard found an even lower gray wolf. A perfect match. Truly a perfect match. Hearing this, Minjun could no longer control his expression. He then raised his hands and walked towards Jian Song step by step. However, Jian Song was completely unaware of the gravity of the situation. He continued to gloat. My dear cousin, have you finally decided to throw yourself into my arms? I just don't know if you've already been. In the next second, Minjun grabbed Jian Song's hair with one hand and his collar with the other, then shoved him hard into the nearby fountain.